Welcome back to the second part of the Elementary Behavior Analysis Help video on reinforcement schedules. In this video, I'm going to be going over some examples and what kind of schedule they would fit into. So for this one, I would suggest pausing the video after each example so you can try to see if you know which reinforcement schedule they fit into before I give you the answer. Okay, so the first one we have says, after spending an average of 10 minutes folding laundry, the child gets a piece of candy. So this one tells us that there's an amount of time that's being measured, and it says an average of 10 minutes. So that means it's not going to be exactly 10 minutes every time, but it's going to be around 10 minutes. So since it's an average amount of time, we know that it's going to be variable, and it's going to be interval because it's an amount of time, not a number of responses. So we have variable, interval. Next we have, after 15 minutes of playing piano, the student gets to watch a video. So again, we have a unit of time in this one, but it does not say an average of 15 minutes, it says exactly 15 minutes. So this one is going to be fixed interval because it's a fixed amount of time. This one says, after getting an average of 4 sales, the worker gets extra time on their lunch break. So again, we have an average of 4 sales, which means it's going to be variable, and we have a number of responses. So this one is variable ratio. Next, we have, after 30 minutes of reading, the child gets a cookie. So here we have an amount of time, so it's going to be interval. And since it says exactly 30 minutes rather than an average of 30 minutes, it's going to be fixed interval. After 4 times of scratching on the scratching post, the cat gets a pet. So this one has a number of responses, and it's going to be exactly 4 times rather than an average of 4 times. So this is fixed ratio. After rolling over on average 3 times, the dog gets a treat. So here we have an average number of responses, so it's going to be variable ratio. After raking leaves for an average of 20 minutes, the girl gets $1. So we have an average amount of time, which means it's going to be variable interval. After an average of 5 math problems, the student gets a break. So we have an average number of responses, which means it's variable ratio. This means that it'll be around 5 math problems before the student gets a break, but not exactly 5 every time. After brushing his teeth for 2 minutes, the child gets a quarter. So in this one, we have a unit of time, which is 2 minutes, and it's an exact unit of time. So at exactly 2 minutes, the first time the child engages in the behavior, they'll get reinforcement, so that's fixed interval. After an average of 30 minutes of educational videos, the student gets to watch a music video. So again, we have an average amount of time, which is an average of 30 minutes, which means not every time it will be exactly 30 minutes, but it will be around there when they get their reinforcement. So that's going to be variable interval. After every 4 jumping jacks, the child gets praise. So this is a set amount of responses, which means fixed ratio. And our last one says, after every correct answer, the student gets a sticker. So we have a set amount of responses before they get their reinforcement, which means it's fixed ratio. Now I'm going to go through and try to write the value of each of these. So for example, this first one, we know it's going to be FR because we've already identified it as fixed ratio. And this one is going to be FR1, which we saw in our last video means the same as continuous schedule of reinforcement. So we would refer to this as FR1. And this one, again, it's going to be FR, but since the number of responses is 4, we're going to put FR4. Oops, 4. And this last one, is again going to be FR4 because it's fixed ratio 4. So this is how we would write the value of this schedule. For our variable ratios, it's going to be VR, and this first one is going to be VR3 because it's a variable ratio of 3. And the next one we have VR4. And in this one we have VR5. So hopefully that makes some sense on how you would write this if you were asked to identify the schedule. It's going to be FR for fixed ratio, VR for variable ratio, FI for fixed interval, and VI for variable interval, along with the value of each one. So I'll just do one more example to show you for interval. So for this one, it would be FI because it's fixed interval, and the value or amount of time is going to be 15. So we would refer to this as FI 15. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. You could go through and label the rest of them if you would like, but that is how you would go about labeling the schedules of reinforcement. And hopefully this video showed you a little bit on how you would go about identifying the schedules of reinforcement. And hopefully that makes a little bit more sense when talking about the different schedules. Thank you.